everyone, and welcome to another episode of Talking Public Health, a Shelby County Health Department podcast, where we take you behind the scenes of our work, highlight the people who make it happen, and have real conversations about health, community, and everything in between. My name is Tyra Moore, and I am the Special Assistant to our Division Director and Health Officer here at the Shelby County Health Department.
And I'm Amaya Gray, Marketing Coordinator with the Shelby County Health Department. Today's episode focuses on air quality, environmental health, and how weather and pollution can directly impact our health and daily lives.
Many people check the weather forecast every day, but fewer people think about the air quality forecast, even though air pollution can have serious impacts on breathing, heart health, and overall well-being.
Today, we'll talk about how air quality is monitored and forecasted, what terms like AQI and Code Orange actually mean, and how residents can better protect themselves during unhealthy air quality days.
And so today, we're joined by Brent Schumacher, our air quality meteorologist here with the Shelby County Health Department.
Brent, thank you for being here. Before we dive in, can you introduce yourself and let us know about your role?
So I'm Brent Schumacher, an air quality meteorologist for the Shelby County Health Department, as you just said. I grew up in Wisconsin, and I have a degree in atmospheric science from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. I was in Utah for a couple of years, but I ended up moving here for this opportunity just over a year ago.
Okay, very cool. Well, welcome to Memphis.
Thank you.
And yeah, we can go ahead and get started.
All right. So people are often surprised to learn that the Shelby County Health Department employs 2 full-time meteorologists. Can you tell us what you do and how it contributes to public health?
So I forecast the air quality for the Memphis metro area, and air quality, just like normal weather, has a direct influence on the health of all people since it's the air that we have to breathe every day. Mm-hmm. So just like for the weather forecast, it's important to stay informed and up to date about what the air quality is like each day as well.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I don't think people really think about that. You just think of the, standard meteorologist when you see the clouds, and then they're like, smooth.
Even I really didn't used to as much, honestly.
So how are air pollution forecasts created, and what data kind of goes into making them?
So there's a lot that goes into them. I'm sure we'll get to this later too, but I specifically forecast ozone and PM 2.5, which is particulate matter that's smaller than 2.5 microns, like smoke and dust.
Okay.
So there's a lot that goes into them, but before I can even forecast the air quality, I still do have to figure out what the actual weather forecast will be too, because that directly affects what the air quality will be. So there's a lot of factors that can influence air quality, like the wind direction and speed at different levels of the atmosphere, because that affects how well things mix out, and like if it's stagnant, ozone's going to be higher. The amount and change in cloud cover, temperature, dew point, pressure, all that stuff influences it. So when I'm forecasting the air quality, each day, when I first get into the office, I'll look at just what's happening right now and check back on the previous day, how all the conditions changed and what ended up happening, and record all that to look back on for the future when I'm referencing similar days. So yeah, I look at emissions, transfer of pollutants upstream, how much can carry over from previous days affecting today. And I guess I already said similar days, but I look at a lot of different models and basically compare them, see how consistent they are, and I'll develop what I think is the most accurate estimate of what the air quality will be.
Okay, very cool. That's a lot of pieces.
Yeah, hopefully I wasn't rambling. There's a lot of things to think about. I normally write things down to keep all track of it.
I feel like you'd have to. Try to monitor the present, the past, how much, how little, all the things. That's a lot.
So what specific pollutants are you mostly focused on when issuing forecasts, and why?
So I specifically forecast ozone and PM 2.5, but in terms of even just monitoring that we do in Shelby County, the EPA, they define 6 criteria pollutants, which are particle pollution, like I just mentioned, but that also includes PM10 and even PM coarse, which is just a little bit bigger particles, like pollen tends to be PM10 or a little bigger than that. Ground level ozone, like I said, which is, I guess, technically the same as upper level ozone, but upper level ozone in the atmosphere helps insulate the planet and protect us from UV rays, versus ground level ozone, we breathe that in and that's harmful to us. There's also carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, and lead. But a few decades ago, lead was phased out of gasoline, so that's not really a source anymore. And after stricter regulation of emissions, Memphis no longer has any significant sources of lead. So after many years of monitoring lead and really only picking up trace or even less amounts, we got an official EPA exemption from monitoring lead, but we still do measure all the other 5 main criteria pollutants.
Okay, cool. And so before we move further, PM stands for particle matter, correct?
Particulate matter, but I guess that's pretty much the same thing, yeah.
No. I'm trying to learn too. And then the numbers kind of signify how large that particle is in the atmosphere.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Listen, we're all learning here. So kind of as I'm learning now, why should the average person care about air quality forecasts?
Because even if you're healthy, the air that you breathe over time will still have a direct impact on your health. Mm-hmm. You know, if you run a lot, if you work outside a lot, it's not only people that are young or old or have asthma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's for sure. It's like important to kind of know what's going into your body.
So how does poor air quality affect like different groups like children or older people or people with asthma?
I guess that's kind of transitioning from what we just talked about, mm-hmm. but people like that are more sensitive, which also includes people that just are outside or exerting themselves a lot, they tend to be at a higher risk for lung or heart issues, especially for PM when the air quality is poor, mm-hmm. for longer periods of time as well.
Okay. And so, yeah, you said, as you kind of touched on, it can pose long-term threats to health. So what are some of those immediate steps that people can take when it comes to protecting themselves?
So on days when the air quality is or is forecasted to be poor, you should reduce your physical activity. On high ozone days, it helps to go to an inside air-conditioned environment. On PM days that are high, which tends to be a little less frequent in Memphis, going to an indoor environment that has filtered air or an air purifier is useful. And after taking those steps, if you're still feeling like you can't breathe, you're struggling to breathe, it might be time to seek medical attention.
Yeah, for sure.
So how do the weather patterns influence air pollution levels?
Oh yeah, I guess before I answer that, can I touch on one other thing too?
Yeah, sure.
For sure.
In the past, the previous air forecaster, they would talk about the Cool 5, which includes share the ride, carpooling, mm-hmm. link the trips. I guess that is just not taking multiple different trips throughout the day to run errands. Stop at the click, which means when you're filling up your gas, mm-hmm. don't top it off because that can break the seal on your car and reduce extra vapors into the air, which affects ozone. Mm-hmm. Don't idle your car, if you're stopping to pick somebody up from school or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then mow when the sun is low, because lawnmowers, their engines are actually very inefficient. So mm-hmm. if you mow in the evening, then when the ozone comes down, you won't be contributing to emissions for the day.
Well, that's nice. And it's good too in the summers when it's hot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's also just more pleasant to mow in the evening.
For sure.
So yeah. Back to the other question. So how do weather patterns influence air pollution levels?
So ozone tends to be the highest on days that are sunny, hot, dry, and then have light winds, which mainly happen during the peak times of summer. PM tends to be higher when we're more humid because particulates can cling actually to the moisture in the air. But for both of them, that it's influenced by transfer too. We tend to have winds most of the time that are out of the south to southwest. I guess that's our dominant wind direction when looking at wind data throughout the year. But we tend to get a lot of transfer from areas south of us like New Orleans or Houston. They can transfer PM, or just emissions are precursors to forming ozone too. So it's always important to look upstream at what's happening. Or if there's something like a wildfire, that can transfer pretty far. Like even Saharan dust on occasion can go all the way across the ocean and wrap up from the south and get up to us too. We've seen that a few times.
Okay. Wow. You kind of mentioned it, but wildfires, heat waves, and I'll throw in another one because I'm from the Midwest, and I know
I'm also from the Midwest.
Okay, yes. Yeah, so when you said it, I was like, yeah, go Midwest. Also, love Memphis as well, but go Midwest.
Yes, of course.
Kind of crop burning and kind of the turning over of the earth, like in the spring, early springtime. What roles do events like that play in air quality?
So those crop burning and stuff, they're not allowed to do those when we're forecasting high levels of ozone because the nitrogen and stuff from that is a big precursor for ozone too.
Gotcha.
But that is something to watch. I guess that can also affect PM levels, but most of the time that tends to be maybe bigger than PM 2.5. I guess dust is small enough for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it just depends kind of on what PM level it emits from the action. So wildfire versus like a heat wave versus a crop burn.
Yes,
okay.
And I guess different particulates can have different things in them. Like some can be higher in nitrogen.
Okay.
others. What is it, like CO2? Like you can look at different things and see how that could affect ozone.
Okay.
Sometimes even higher levels of smoke can dry out the air a little bit, which will lower the dew point and make ozone higher too.
Wow.
It's a lot of different things in effect. I've also seen days where smoke does not settle to the surface, but instead is in the air and blocks a little sunlight and ends up reducing ozone. So
Okay.
there's a lot of different things that can affect what ozone is doing throughout the day.
Okay. Interesting.
So how accurate would you say air quality forecasts are, and like how far in advance can you predict conditions based on those?
So just looking out like a week or two, I can see general conditions and maybe kind of estimate approximately what will happen, but in terms of being really accurate, there's just so many changing factors and things to look at that it's really best to look only a day or two out to be sure that you'll be close to the real number of what will happen.
Which is kind of similar to, I feel like, regular weather. It's like,
Yeah.
they tell us,
Yeah.
oh, it's going to rain. And then
The percentages and things, yeah.
It's like, it's not going to rain, actually.
It's almost like the butterfly effect. The farther you go out, the more variables that can change. It's just exponentially harder to predict.
Yeah. And so, okay, so we can obviously go to people like you and other air quality monitors, but how can listeners use kind of websites like Air Now or an app to protect their home?
Yeah, so on airnow.gov, when you go on there, you can enter your own location, and it'll come up with the Nowcast, I think it's called, which is basically their own algorithm that will look at the last few hours of data and how it's trending and estimate what it thinks the actual air quality for the day will be. But on that website, you can also open up a map, which will show monitors all around the country and what they're doing. You can also see archive data from each day. Like you just click on it and select a date, and it'll show a whole map of what the day's air quality was like for each pollutant.
Okay.
And you can even look at what I forecasted for the day, because you'll see our metro pop up, and you click on it, it'll say like what my day 1 and day 2 forecast is.
Okay, so you kind of work in conjunction with that site to...
Yeah, I guess the data I posted on is called Air Now Tech, but that gets posted to airnow.gov.
Okay, very cool.
So for our listeners that may be kind of like new to this terminology, could you explain like what AQI or Code Orange actually mean?
So AQI stands for Air Quality Index. It was a system that was created by the EPA that basically standardizes to convert the different concentrations to a number that makes sense for us to understand how the air quality is. It goes up at first by 50, it goes 50, 100, 150, but the categories, they go by color. It starts with green, good, which is pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Yellow, moderate, which for most people is probably okay. Maybe sensitive people will start noticing it a bit. But then code orange, as you said, that's orange, unhealthy for sensitive groups. We just call it code orange because it's a simple way to describe it. But then it goes red, unhealthy for the general public, purple, very unhealthy, and then maroon, hazardous.
Okay.
Red, it doesn't happen every year. Purple's pretty rare, and hazardous is pretty much right if you're just on top of a wildfire or something like that.
Gotcha. Okay. And will news stations normally like kind of release this information on their stations if it's like ever a code orange or something like that, or?
Yes, so when a code orange happens, I contact the National Weather Service, so a lot of times on your weather apps or even sometimes a notification on your phone, it'll pop up with an air quality advisory. And I do also send something out to the news, so they tend to say something by their evening forecasts, or if I forecasted it the day before, sometimes they'll talk about it, that we're looking forward to it as well. But I guess also going along with AQI, I forgot to mention this too. So ozone is the number for AQI. It's the highest 8-hour average of the day, which tends to fall between about 12 to 8 p.m. or so on just a normal sunny day. And then PM 2.5 is the full 24-hour average, each number averaged out for what the AQI is.
Okay, cool. And so I guess over your time here in Memphis, have you seen changes in the air quality trends over time? Or I guess you can even speak to, your past experiences too.
Yeah, so I've only been in Memphis for about a year, but we do still have decades of data that I do look back on. So compared to a few decades ago, our air quality has gotten significantly better as there's more efficient fuel in industry and tighter regulations on things. But the standards have also gotten stricter, and even if you applied our stricter standards to back then, it's a lot better nowadays. But in more recent years, like the last few years, it's slowly maybe gotten a little worse as some regulations have loosened a little bit.
Yeah, which is always unfortunate.
So what role does climate change play in affecting air pollution patterns?
So on average, our summers have been getting longer and hotter, which means more opportunities for high ozone days. And then when heat waves occur, that also means more frequent wildfires, like we've seen up in Canada with those Canadian wildfires,
Okay.
which luckily last summer didn't really get down to us too much.
And what, I guess, from seeing the trends, from being here for a year, but then looking at past trends, what improvements or innovations are coming that you're excited for in air quality forecasting?
So models, they're always improving, using previous data, and we have better computers that can do more calculations faster, but I've heard EPA talking about using AI in some of their models to make the predictions a bit better. I've even seen that in hurricane forecasting too, but I know that's not air quality. But we have also had better improvements with satellite tracking transfer of pollutants. And to the Mid-South especially, we tend to have a very humid environment compared to other areas, so models used to be kind of biased towards that. Like, we'd have a very hot day, but it'd also be so humid that ozone wouldn't end up being a problem, so models would over-predict a bit. So they've started including the calculations to reduce the bias when necessary, which also helps.
Yeah, which I guess I do have a follow-up question to that in a way. When you move, whether you're from here or you move to Memphis, the pollen is really bad, like in this area. And so how does that kind of impact the readings and like comparative to other places, or does it?
Well, that's, like I said, that's mostly PM10, so I normally don't directly forecast that, but we do tend to have higher pollen levels than a lot of other areas.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, that makes sense. You can feel it in the air as soon as the spring happens.
I'm not even allergic and I still notice it.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, well, Brent, we've learned a lot from everything that you've talked about, and we just wanted to shift it back to you a little bit. So what drew you to this field of meteorology?
So growing up, I was always very fascinated with the weather. I knew that I wanted to do something with that. I don't know if I really ever intended on getting into air pollution forecasting, but I ended up getting this opportunity and I took it, and it's been very interesting. I've learned a lot, so I'm glad it ended up this way. I've kind of gone where the wind has taken me, pun intended.
Right, I was like, very pun-like. And so, you didn't initially plan on it, but what is kind of the most surprising thing that you've learned from air pollution?
I never really realized how sensitive of a molecule that ozone is. It's a constant process that happens like minute by minute of it forming, deforming, reforming. It's sensitive to a lot of things.
Yeah.
And even just the smallest change, you could have a slightly different cloud cover, temperature, dew point, even just by a few degrees or something could suddenly make it take off or do nothing throughout the day.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess, you have kind of went to college for this thing and understanding it, but for the base human like me, what are kind of like the first steps that you would suggest for us to kind of learn more about it? I know we mentioned like the app and everything, but from a personal standpoint, what do you feel like are the best ways?
To learn more about it, I'm sure there's lots of resources online. That's one thing I love about weather is that, it affects everybody. A lot of people in their jobs, they'll tell you about it, and you'll just be like, okay, what? But there's a lot of resources online, YouTube videos, probably on the EPA website, modules and stuff you can do. But even just paying attention to what the air quality is each day and what the weather conditions were, you can just learn that way from patterns and stuff, how things change over time.
Yeah. Monitoring and exploring.
So if our listeners could remember just one thing from this conversation, what should it be?
Air quality is important. Everybody should pay attention to it. It affects the health of all the public, which is exactly why I'm here to monitor and forecast for it.
Yeah, well, thank you, Brent, for coming in and monitoring and forecasting for it, because it's important. And thank you for helping us, and I know the public, to better understand the connection between air quality, weather, and public health.
Conversations like this remind us that public health includes so much more than what happens in a clinic. It also includes the environment we live in every day.
And thank you to our listeners for tuning in and talking public health.
We'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Talking Public Health. Be sure to join us for more episodes as we continue exploring the people, programs, and stories that shape public health here in Shelby County. Until next time, take care and stay healthy.